con un diplomado en English as a Foreign and Second Language de la University College of North Wales, en Gran Bretaña. Es magíster en Filología, mención lingüística aplicada de la Universidad Austral de Chile. El profesor Roldán desarrolló docencia de pregrado por más de 40 años en nuestra universidad, dictando cursos como English Language, Speech Training, tópicos de lingüística aplicada, supervisión de práctica docente, en inglés, Advanced Phonetics, Articulatory Phonetics, English Phonetics Level 1, 2, Suprasegmental Phonetics, ortofonía y cursos selectivos sobre fonética. También enseñó fonética y fonología inglesa y del español y lingüística aplicada en la Universidad de San Sebastián. El profesor Roldán ha dirigido decenas de tesis relacionadas con el campo de fonética y la enseñanza de inglés como idioma extranjero. Ha sido colaborador y responsable de diversos proyectos de investigación y ha desarrollado también una carrera productiva en publicaciones y en actividades de extensión. Se desempeñó también como secretario académico de nuestra facultad, fue director de Escuela de Educación Media Científico Humanista y director de Escuela de Pedagogía en Comunicación en Lengua Inglesa de la Universidad de Chile. O sea, mi antecesor. Y me pone muy orgullosa de estar hoy día en lo que fue alguna vez su puesto. Pero más que eso, y más que presentarles al profe como el profe que es, y que ha sido para muchos de nosotros también todo este tiempo, es un profesor, una persona que queremos mucho. En el caso mío, fue profesor mío de fonética cuando yo entré a la universidad, y nos acompañaba en todas las actividades que teníamos programáticas. Si hacíamos una fiesta, el profesor estaba ahí. Si hacíamos actividades recreativas, él siempre estaba ahí apoyándonos, y creo que eso ha sido una de las cosas más lindas que recuerdo, y que muchos de nosotros recordamos también del profe Roldán. Así que, without further ado, como decimos, profesor Eduardo Roldán, lo dejo a usted entonces con su charla, su clase, que él llamó What does it mean to speak a language well, English or Spanish, to pronounce well, and to read aloud well. Mr. Roldán, the stage is all yours.
I want to say something before he begins.
Okay.
Yeah, he asked me to tell everyone that this is not a class, it is not a talk, it is I forgot the word. Well, the thing is that he's not going to answer questions afterwards. Okay, so pay attention to what he's going to say, because if you don't understand something, that's it.
You can, I think you can ask questions, I mean, maybe to me. We can talk about that later, and I can send your questions and doubts maybe later to the teacher, to the professor, and we can talk about these things in another opportunity. So make notes, take notes, learn from the experience. Thank you, Andrea. Profe, ahora sí?
Yes, yes. Hello. Hello, everybody. And Ms. Paula, thank you very much for the invitation to participate in the activities the school has organized to welcome the new students. All right. As you said, here we are. Yeah, that's the topic for this presentation. What does it mean to speak a language well? I mean, could be a native language or a foreign language, Spanish in our case, or English. And what does it mean to pronounce the language well and to read aloud the language well? Now, the three questions are closely connected. So I will try to give an answer, I mean, freely, and taking into account my experience, you see, and taking into account some research and investigations on the topic. This presentation is mainly intended to the new students. For this reason, I will use technical terms easy for them to understand. All right? Now, here, In relation to the answers to the questions, what does it mean to, etc., etc. Now, people say that to speak the language well is to speak fluently, or to speak like native speakers, or to have a lot of good vocabulary and know grammar rules for the language. I don't quite agree with their opinion. Okay, so it's not easy to agree so easily with these opinions. Now, first of all, to be fluent in a language means to move softly from one word to the next, not to hesitate, not to use pet words or excessive fillers. Of course, we can use I mean, etc. But according to the situation we are in, or if we are in a formal or informal context. In this case, we don't have to confuse speaking fluently and speaking fast, all right? All of us belong to some linguistic community. We belong to a family, to a group of friends, to neighbors, and now you, the new students, belong to an academic university community. When we interact in any community, we need to understand what they are saying to us, and they need to understand what we want to communicate. In other words, we have to use the appropriate language, formal or informal, depending on the context, on the situation, and on the listeners. In a formal context, we have to be able to use suitable vocabulary, the correct grammar and sentence patterns of the language, and produce the correct speech sounds of the language also. With my friends and family, I usually speak in a relaxed way, Spanish and sometimes English, without paying too much attention to grammar or vocabulary. That is to say, I use informal language. In more formal situations, I have to be more careful and make an effort to use formal language. Now, for example, sometimes at the beginning of a semester in a classroom, I say, "Good morning, how are you?" Formal. Then almost at the end of the semester, I say, "Hi, folk, what's up?" Or "Hi, what's up, dude?" You see, very informal. But that is a kind of game. Then to speak a language, we need to know and choose suitable vocabulary according to the topic and the situation. Use the right grammar and sentence patterns. Produce the correct sounds of the language, the stress patterns, rhythm and intonation, right? And be careful and persistent work or effort and a positive attitude can help achieve these goals. All right, so in any conversation or conversational situation, people are fluent, people use language freely, but we may face lots of communication breakdowns. And communication breakdowns are common in many languages, or maybe in all languages. If we don't know how to face communication breakdowns, we may feel discouraged. In this sense, there are strong recommendations to check the different types of competence to be confident, to face and overcome communication breakdowns. Sometimes you don't know how to respond, how to behave in certain situations or in front of communication breakdowns. Then I have mentioned the concept competence. Competence has been defined as the quality or state of having knowledge, judgment, skill, or strength in a particular aspect of the language we are speaking. That is a general definition for concept. And we have different types and many types of competence or competencies, both are correct, so that we have to be familiar with all these types of competence to know how to behave in a community, in a speaking community. First of all, linguistic competence, it's the knowledge speakers of a language possess, the capacity to create correct sentences based on the knowledge of a language. So the new students, at the end of your 4 years, you will have a very good linguistic competence in English. You see, the information you will store, you will have in your mind, it's going to be quite, that's what we expect. Communicative competence refers to a language uses grammatical knowledge of syntax, morphology, phonology, as well as social knowledge about how and when to use utterances appropriately. Then social linguistic competence is the ability to understand and use language that is appropriate to social context and use the appropriate registers and dialect variants. A register is a kind of functional language. For example, the language we use, or the language you use with your teachers, is different from the language you use with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. All right? So we have different registers in this sense. Then we have paralinguistic competence, a form of communication concerned with non-verbal signs to express attitudes by using non-linguistic expressions such as wow, oof, ah, oh. You see? Then we will move to strategic competence, the aspect of communicative competence, the ability to overcome difficulties when communication breaks down occur. This is important, you see. So we try to think, what can I do in this moment? Discourse competence is to be able to arrange words, phrases, and sentences to structure a text, written or spoken, while we are speaking. A structure that is appropriate within conversations, interviews, and reports. Then we move to grammatical competence, the ability to understand and express meaning by producing and recognizing well-formed phrases and sentences. And something new. This was new for me, not this year, but last year. Intercultural competence. It is a range of cognitive, affective, flexible, and behavioral skills that lead to effective and appropriate communication with people of other cultures. See, because of migration, we have to know the way, something about their culture, just to behave in a certain way. Apart from these types of competence, we have also non-verbal communication or body language, which is really important. Now, non-verbal communication does not substitute language, but it reinforces language. And here we include chronemics, which is the role of time communication. You know, in our culture, we have a meeting at 8 o'clock and people arrive at 10 past 8 or a quarter past 8. In some cultures, people are allowed to be late no more than 5 minutes. I think here in Chile, I've discovered that religious activities and classes at university and in schools are the only instances where people take into account the time for arriving, you see. Then haptics refers to the study of touch. We are very fond of touching, kissing, you see, when we say hello. Sometimes people say, at least in my wife's family, say, I'm going to buy bread. Ah, yeah, okay, goodbye. A kiss. You see, did you find? Yes, here is the bread. Ah, hello. See, so that is what haptics refer to kinesics, body movements. We move our hands, our body, our eyes, etc. a lot in communication activities. And proxemics, the use of space. Now, so here we have 9 types of communicative competence, and in real life situations, they must be used. Now, the most important ones, from my point of view, are communicative competence, social linguistic competence, and strategic competence. See? When behaving in a group. So I think that to speak a language well is to be able to adapt one's speech to the situation, to the context, and to the listener. This means understanding and making oneself understood by adapting the appropriate register, expressing oneself coherently, and making the language fulfill its function. You know, to speak a language is a process of adaptation to different communicative situations. This is in general terms what to speak a language well means. Of course, there are much more information, you see, but this is, I hope this is kind of motivation to continue reading and discussing and talking about this topic. Now, the second question is, what does it mean to pronounce the language well? The way we shake hands, the way we smile and look at people when we meet them say a lot about us, say a lot about our personality. So does pronunciation. All right. Let me go then. Here we are. So, when we or you talk to people in real life, they may not notice your limited vocabulary or grammar mistakes, but they will notice right away if your pronunciation is good or bad. If your pronunciation is poor, people will think that you speak bad English. This is something real, you see? Now, a bad pronunciation will create a negative impression on the listener. And here I have that pronunciation is our calling card. You see? We can be classified from the from the moment we open our mouth to say something. So another important and true thing, you can live, this is for the students and for us also, you can live and communicate without advanced vocabulary, quite a way. You can use simple words to say what you want to say. You can also use simple grammar structures. But there is no something as simple pronunciation. We cannot say you can use simple sounds to speak. You see the difference there? I may have lots of words. I may be fluent, a very nice person, using the correct competence in a group, but my pronunciation is not so careful. So the impression I'm going to give people is going to be negative anyway. And pronunciation includes the sounds of the language in isolation and how they go together into words and sentences, and which syllables and words to stress and intonation. So we have the speech sounds, stress, rhythm, and intonation. These are the components of pronunciation. Now, English and Spanish have the same alphabet, but some letters will have an entirely different pronunciation. This can be confusing in the beginning. For example, in Spanish, the letter A is always pronounced A. Panama, manzana, Alabama, etc. The same letter, A in English, has many pronunciations. Cat, many, heart, about, village, area, pay, small, want. You see, so that is a difficulty for the students who are beginning to study phonetics. But with practice, you can get the correct pronunciation in the end. The student at the beginning will have the tendency to say cat, about, area, small and want. Small and want. In this case, there is a strong influence of Spanish. Spanish is interfering in pronunciation. So, and that's why, dear students, you need concentration in your classes when something is new for you. Well, what is pronunciation actually? Well, it's really quite simple to answer this. Pronunciation refers to how to say things in a language so that a speaker's intended message is easily understood. We can say many things, but how we say things is really important. Some time ago in a workshop or in a meeting I had with students of English at the school, we discussed and studied, not in English, it is not only important what to say, but how to say it. All right? And this is quite right. If a student in classes makes a question, and I say, for example, John, don't be silly. In that way, John, don't be silly. That is it's not the correct way to ask. For sure, that is an offense. John can complain because I use the word silly, which is offensive. But if he goes to a place at night and his girlfriend or he proposes something to his girlfriend, and the girlfriend says, John, don't be silly. You see, the same word with the same nation is going to have a different meaning depending on the situation. Right? So, in this case, we see that pronunciation is an essential component of communicative competence, essential. We have to be patient, yes. I'm using a new computer and that's why I have problems here. Well, this is what I say. Pronunciation is essential, it's an essential component of communicative competence. And pronunciation refers particularly how we produce or we reproduce speech sounds such as vowels. You see? In English and in Spanish, we have 5 vowels letters. A, E, I, O, U, A. They say, but in English, A, I, O, U. But the sounds, the vowel sounds used for speaking are not 5. You have this in your classes in phonetics there. And because of that, the student has the problem making a difference between cat, cut, cart. You see? And the tendency, the first semester, I mean, the first weeks, the students are going to say, cat, I have a cat. Hey, I have a cat in my hand. Yes, when I go to the supermarket, we have to we'll put the things in a cart or cart. You see, that's important. Or the difference between it and it. Or in relation to consonants, choose and shoes, choose and shoes, think and think, and how we stress certain syllables also. For example, television in Chile has a great influence on young people. Sergio Lagos, one of the TV speakers, says, and la performance del equipo fue buena. You see, and the performance. You see, we don't say the performance, or the performance, la performancia, for example. Well, the important thing here is to pay attention and compare the difference between English and Spanish. Now, most students have many problems with the sh sound in shoes, she, because in Spanish, that is an allophone. It is a variant of the ch sound. You say, they don't say Chile, ni chomba, ni chocolate. They say tele, tomba, chocolate. Katai, tau chiquillo. See? And if we insist, say cash, she, shop. You see? They think that we are just doing something just to have fun. So the classes the teacher will have with the new students must be quite interesting in this sense. All right. Another thing here is the following. Many learners would love to sound like native speakers in their new language. You see, but what does that mean exactly? English speakers from the UK and from the USA have different accents, but they are simply different ways of speaking. We tend to generalize the United Kingdom on the USA accents, but it is said that there are over 50 different accents in the British Isles alone, all right? Very similar to Chile. People from Chile speak in a different way from people from the north, from Arica, for example, or from Putre. In our country, we usually learn Standard English in Chile, which is a variety of English used as a world language, and it is used in relatively formal speaking, all right? So, pronunciation is an essential component of communicative competence. Don't worry about the accent. At the beginning, you have to decide maybe or to sound the British way or the American way. See, now if you make yourself understood and understand other proficient speakers, it means that you are on your way to being a good English speaker. All right? So you have to take your time to practice. And in this case, there are 3 important words you have to keep in mind. And these words are listening, repetition, and imitation. Listen to your teachers. Listen to short stories in YouTube. There are lots of short stories in YouTube to listen to. Repetition, repeat. The teacher says, well, this is quite important. Say important, no, important, important. For example, imitate. In this case, it's kind of game. You can play. You can imagine that you are Jingo, and in your room, when you are in the bathroom, brushing your teeth, imagine that you are a king. You say, "Hello, stop, hello, there," for example, in Spanish, or you repeat something in English. But these are the key words: listening, repetition, and imitation are important. You see, so again, we have that pronouncing well. It's not just a matter of being a special person. No, the purpose is communication again. Then we have to read aloud well. Reading aloud is an instructional practice where teachers read text aloud to the students in class. The reader incorporates variations in pitch, tone, rhythm, volume, pauses, eye contact, and comments to produce a fluent and enjoyable delivery. Now, reading aloud introduces important skills. It introduces vocabulary, provides a model of fluent and expressive reading, and helps students' comprehension and attention span. Reading aloud establishes connections between the spoken and the written words. It provides a safe way to explore emotions, strengthens relationships, and helps students develop social communication and interpersonal skills. Now, before reading, the teacher or the reader should do the following. First of all, make sure that you know the pronunciation of new words. This is quite important. Divide the text into pauses, clusters of meaning. We have short pause if there is a comma, for example, and a long, or if there's a stop. But anyway, we have two kinds of pauses. Physiological pauses to take air in, to breathe, and linguistic pauses for meaning. And that is the kind of pause I'm referring to here. Then once you have divided long sentences into sense groups or clusters of meaning, underline the keywords within each pause. When we speak, not all the words have the same importance. Some of them outstand. Some of them outstand. Not all of them, but some. You see, that is the contrast we usually make. So underline the keywords within each pause. Emphasize the words that are important to the meaning. And I remember that that time, the king appeared, standing, and she said, "Good morning," etc. So, teaching is an art, by the way. We are all the time acting when we teach, because we have to imagine. And Paola, as a teacher of literature, knows this quite well. You see? Well, emphasize the words that are important to the meaning. Mark the words where the voice goes up or down. So we say, yesterday morning, I have not finished saying what I want to say, and that's why I go up a little bit. Yesterday morning, I went to the supermarket, and on my way, I met Margarita. I met Margarita. That's the end, you see? Well, we're going to say, yesterday morning, without going up, not down. Yesterday morning, I went to the supermarket and I met Margarita. Yes, but sometimes we read as if we were robots, you see. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. When I was a child, I used to play. I used to ride my bicycle, and I like to drink milk. You see, without any inflection, no meaning at all. Then we have the voice goes up a little where there are commas, and it goes down only at full stops. When what I want to say, the information I want to give is finished, ready. Now I will show you a short passage illustrating the points we have here. And this short test is quite familiar for some of you, but it's really nice. That is, you see, here we divided the text into sense groups with pauses. Then the important word, the focus words are marked there. The weather, England. Where, in. There is a pause. The voice, I mean, the idea is not finished. So I cannot use falling intonation. I have two possibilities. To use a level tone or go up a little bit. And then the second, change very quickly. The three words are important. Change very and quickly. And that's the first information, and it's complete. The weather in England can change very quickly. All right? One day last week, not 2 days, not last Sunday, not yesterday, not last month. You see, that's right. The words are important. One day last week, all of them are important. I went for a walk in the country. I went for a walk. I did not play football. I did not go to the cinema, but country. I went for a walk in the country. When I started, early in the morning, the weather was beautiful. I forgot to mark beautiful. The weather is the first word. It's in the first sense group, so it is not necessary to give the same importance to it again. So the weather was beautiful. The sun was shining. The sun is a new element. The sky was blue, and there were no clouds at all. And there were no clouds at all. In the middle of the morning, not at the beginning, at 8 o'clock in the morning or at midday, but in the middle of the morning, a sudden change came. Suspense. You create suspense, see? So this is the ideal way of reading aloud. It takes time, but it motivates students. Now, what did we say? What about if there is any volunteer in the audience to read this, following the instructions? He doesn't. I'm not going to give you a mark for this, but listen. The weather in England can change very quickly. One day last week, I went for a walk in the country. When I started, early in the morning, the weather was beautiful. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and there were no clouds at all. In the middle of the morning, a sudden change came. This will keep the students paying attention because of the inflections of the voice. You see, nobody is going to sleep while I read something. Any volunteer? Let's have fun. Oh, you remember your classes, your phonetics and phonology classes?
Professor?
Yes?
Tamara says, I volunteer.
Yeah, good, Tamara.
Hello.
Hi.
Where should I start? Sorry.
You have to read this.
Yes.
Great.
From the very beginning?
Yeah, Tamara.
Okay. So, the weather in England can change very quickly. One day last week, I went for a walk in the country. When I started early in the morning, the weather was beautiful. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and there were no clouds at all. In the middle of the morning, a sudden change came.
Right, good, very good. You pass.
Yay!
You pass. But, yes, but there is one thing. Only one thing caught my attention. You see, the second line, when I started. No, when I started, because you see, if you say when I started, not the rest of my friends who were there with me, but you're using emphasis. You see, that is one thing.
Thank you.
Fine. The only thing, yes, Tamara, the only thing, if you are a teacher, if you want to read to your students, try not to go too fast. Nobody's saying, hurry up, Tamara, hurry up, Tamara. No, you take your time. Yes, because you have to. Now, you give life to a death word.
Yeah.
The words are dead there, and you give them life. You see, the weather in England. It is not necessary to be an actor, an actress to do this, but it's just, you see, this is what I say, fun with phonetics.
Thank you, Mr. Roldán. I missed you a lot.
You're right, Tamara, yes. Well, almost an hour, 55 minutes, and this is what I wanted to show you today. But anyway, maybe we have time, 5 minutes, just for a couple of questions. I must tell you something, that I worked in the laboratory, in the language laboratory for many years at the university using the headphones. And now the result is that I have some problems to listen to in a normal way. And that's why I said I don't want to listen to questions, because I don't want to be ashamed. This old deaf man, no. But anyway, you can send me any message if you want to know something about this presentation. It's up to you. Dear Andreita?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
I understand why you didn't want questions, because I have difficulties with my ears sometimes. Well, my question is, I love having my students read out loud, because I know that it is an excellent exercise, but I don't know how to justify it. I don't know how to explain to my students that it is a good exercise. So what could I say? What could I tell them?
The thing is that usually students refuse to do something new. All right, so we have to prepare them. You see, what about if I've learned a lot. I mean, yeah, just teaching. What about if we make kind of a round table? You see, you sit down here, there, and you put a game into practice. You practice, all right? And then, good. Now, here you have something. Now, you read this. You are a king, and yeah, you read that. Kind of role play. Yes. Motivation is, at the beginning, is difficult, because nobody wants to read. No.
Yes, nobody wants to do that.
Yes, and from the moment we say, well, today we will have an oral practice, all of them this way. Yes, so you see, I used this example for many years. I mean, similar examples for many years. See, what can you say about the weather in Valdivia? Say that in English. The weather in Valdivia, awful. Yes. So the weather in Valdivia is awful. All right. What else? It rains a lot. Make a sentence. Yeah. You are very happy because you love the rain. You see, it rains a lot. Yes, good. Then you, Margarita, you hate rain. Say that what happens in Valdivia. It rains a lot. You see, good. You see, this is what we have to do. Yeah. That's the way I've done it. You see, just to invite them to do something.
Thank you.
Is it clear, Andrea?
I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. So it is a little bit about motivation too.
Yes. Yes, Andrea, Paola?
Yes, I have another question. Because I know we have a lot of students from first year students in this presentation today, and they will have phonetics this semester, their first phonetic course they will have. And I remember when I was your student back in those days, when you taught us, you know, these, for example, the schwa sound that we all hated because we didn't know how to produce it. And I remember you and us laughing out loud because you told us to exaggerate and to look in the mirror, to look at ourselves in the mirror and practice, you know, the way in which we said the words. And for example, I remember one class when we practiced the sound with girl, and it was like, do this, and you were like, girl, we're all like, you know, doing this with our necks, and then all these, and then it comes out naturally after a while. But at the beginning, it was a little awkward, and we laughed because we felt embarrassed. But then in time we understood it was part of the game, and that and we have fun, you know, doing these things. So if you could tell our students today here, how could they practice these sounds, you know, this semester, thinking that they are not in the classroom, they are not in the same classroom with the teachers, and sometimes the cameras are off and all these things. So maybe they want to know what they can do to practice at home on their own. Thank you.
Yes, there's one thing. What you have done, I mean, this girl, you see, it's shown on YouTube now. You see, there are very short films. You see, the sounds of English. You see, American or British. You see, and there is an old lady said, now you have to spread your lips. Say, and then you say, girl, girl, girl. But anyway, if it's difficult for the students to say teacher, sister, doctor, because they don't believe that that's correct. I've seen this in my classes. You see, the teacher, you cannot say doctor. You can accept the schwa plus the sister, doctor, mother, but not to say doctor, sister, or. I've had the same problem, you see, but in this case I have to be nice. Okay, Margarita, look at me. You see, now, can you understand something if I say, you see, no, sir, nothing, no, nothing. You see, because I'm acting as a ventriloquist. You see, I don't move my lips to speak. Now, suppose I'm dumb and deaf. That's further for me. You say, I am not listen. Not boy. You see, I've done that and it works. You see, I'm not a girl, and show them lots of short stories taken from YouTube or because we have to convince students that is the way English is spoken. And by the way, you see, I mentioned standard English for the students. You see, the thing is that they can say, for example, my teacher is coming today, or my teacher is coming today, but not to say my teacher is coming today. Give them the 3 examples. You say teacher, that's not English. Doctor is not English. You say teacher, English. Doctor, English. Teacher, English. Doctor, English. You see? So kind of negotiation. You see, we have to convince them that what we are doing is correct. So And here we have, I gave the possibility, so the new students are listening to me, the possibility of using standard English. What we cannot accept is to have a mixture, British and American, because it's the same as when you say, voy a ir a comprar la carne, ¿viste? To speak Chilean Spanish and Argentine Spanish, the two things together. No. So you have to convince students with examples like this one. That's the only way. Because now, repeat after me, repeat after me. Am I clear in my answer?
Super clear. Thank you so much. I have a question from a former student. I think it's Felipe Alvarado. He was a student some years ago, and do we have time for another question? I mean, because I can read the question for you, Professor. It says, let me see. It says, Professor, first of all, thank you for this wonderful presentation. My question is more oriented to know your personal opinion regarding intercultural competence. Do you think it is possible for a student to produce the language in a natural way without getting in touch with other cultures? Okay, I am thinking in schools, thinking of schools in distant or rural areas in which students have limited contact with different cultures. That's Felipe's question.
Yeah, yes, my answer is positive. It is possible to do it just by playing with the language, repeating, listening and repeating, listening and repeating, and imitating. You see, imitation at the beginning is very practical.
Yeah.
When we go abroad to a country where English is spoken, well, we are immersed in the language, so there's no problem. But here in Chile, we can. Now we have lots of opportunities to listen to English, short films, you see, and YouTube is very useful. So any of the competencies I mentioned here is possible to put into practice and to get good results from it. You see, because this has improved in many environments. Yes, you know.
Yes, I think so too. Okay, Mr. Roldán, it's already
Yes.
5. Oh, wait, there's one more question here. Yeah, one last question. It says, this is from Pamela Ulloa. Pamela was also, she's a former student, and she says, Mr. Roldán, I would like to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. I would like to know how much time do you recommend that we should focus our classes to see an improvement in our students' pronunciation?
How much time, sorry, how much time I recommend for?
To focus our classes to see an improvement in our students' pronunciation. I guess maybe to practice, to practice pronunciation in the class. Because sometimes, and most of us don't do that formally in the classes. We don't teach pronunciation in schools, and it's a fact. We don't do that formally, right? So maybe that's I guess what she wants to know. How much time in the class you recommend to focus our classes to see an improvement in our students' pronunciation?
how much time within the class?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the topic, because in phonetics we start first of all introducing the student to the new sounds of English. Now making a relationship between the graphemes and the phonemes, and what a phoneme is, showing them right away how bad we pronounce our language, and to make them be aware of the phonemic problem. And we say, "Puchakeri, katai or katai." You say, "No, don't say that." You say, for example, repeat this after me. Well, at the beginning, everybody laughs for what I sound. Se me manchó la chomba con chocolate, right? In Spanish, se me manchó la chomba con chocolate. You see? Yeah, you see, I'm a chanter teacher. I'm a chanter. I do this in class. I used to do this in class, you see? And then I'm an ABC teacher. Se me manchó la chomba con chocolate. Katai or katai. You see? And it was funny. Yes, I enjoyed doing this class, and that's why I still enjoy and love teaching, because phonetics is fun. With phonetics, it's possible to do that. See, to show this, and it also depends on the attitude of the student. You see, just to convince students to practice this, to devote 10 minutes every day, no more than 10 minutes for phonetics. Then some other time for grammar, for literature, and then for procrastinating, for example. You see, but that is a commitment, yes. 10 minutes, and then you tell me what you did yesterday during your 10 minutes for phonetics. Be honest. Someone said, nothing. I didn't have time. Why? Why didn't you have time? You see? And then in that way, I try to get some good results. But it depends, everything depends on the attitude of the student. If he or she likes to do this, if he or she believes that what the teacher says is correct, it is true, it takes time. You see? All right, but anyway, I can offer you, as we say, a workshop or a conversation, a talking session for people who are interested in knowing new things or remembering old things in phonetics, semantics, and pragmatics. The three fields I am engaged in. All right.
Okay.
It was nice for me to be here. It was nice for me to be here and share this with you.
Okay.
Anyway, Paola has my email and my WhatsApp. So if you have any question, please ask. Any question related with phonetics, phonology, pragmatics. So you have to introduce yourself first. You say, I'm Margarita, and I'm a student of English, and I have permission from Miss Paola to ask you this, for example.
Thank you, Prof.
All right. Okay, so that would be all.
Yes, but we have to close this the right way. So, agradecemos a todos los que
Thank you.
estuvieron. Primero empezar agradeciendo al profesor, como dije antes, siempre por estar disponible para compartir lo que sabe. Esta es una historia que tenemos desde hace mucho tiempo en lo personal, pero también, como dije, es parte de la vida y de la formación de muchos de nosotros, y de hecho, hoy día hay harto exalumno aquí también haciendo preguntas, y eso también es muy lindo de ver. Así que, gracias, profesor, por su colaboración y por su buena onda de siempre. Y vamos a mantener este contacto y vamos a mantener, voy a tomar la oferta ya de esta conversatorio, quizás para los que estén interesados en un tema quizás más específico de la enseñanza y el aprendizaje de la fonética. Bien.
They can write to me anytime you want. I don't believe in silly questions, so any question is valid.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So, gracias a todos por estar.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Bye,
antes que se
Eduardo,
vayan,
take care.
sí,
Bye bye, Andreita,
antes que se vayan, antes que se vayan, están invitados a las charlas esta semana. Mañana y pasado hay charlas también, así que están todos invitados también a que vayan a esas charlas, ¿ya? Aprovechen que tienen esta oportunidad y que aunque estemos lejos todavía pueden acceder a ciertas cosas, así que eso. Gracias a todos. Gracias, profesor.
Bye bye.
Chao, chao.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Bye. Thank you.
Ciao,
Bye.
Catherine.
Thank you
Thank
too.
you. Bye.
Ciao, profe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.